Hey everyone, Natalie here, and today I just want to talk a little bit about when you get an injury, whether you should be using ice or heat. So this is something that I think there's a little misconception over, but from my experience, and I've been working with people with injuries for many, many years, I've had injuries myself for years, and I can really feel the difference with one to the next. So typically if it's a new injury, something you fell on your knee, or you just got a brand new back spasm, you went to reach for something and your back went out. Those are the moments when you want to use ice and ice only. Do not use heat. And the reason is if you just strained your back or some other part of your body, or you fell on your knee, a lot of times there's some internal inflammation going on. Okay, the inflammation is there for a reason. Our body is sending a lot of fluid in that area to help clean it up and heal that part of your body. But there's also a lot of heat generated when things are swelling. And even if you have, say, a back spasm or you pull your hamstring or something like that, and it's a brand new injury, it may not look like there's swelling from the outside, but there's a lot happening on the inside. And if we go and put heat on that area, it is going to draw more fluid to that area, and it's going to put more pressure on the nerves. If it's something like a back spasm, I've found that typically in those types of situations, you put heat on it if it's a brand new injury. It's going to feel good right away. Initially, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I feel a little looser. But either a few hours later or the next day, typically it will actually feel worse. And the reason is you pulled a lot more fluid into that area and you created more inflammation than was necessary. When you put ice on a new injury or ice on something like you fell on your knee, it actually helps to slow the blood flow to that area temporarily. It helps to constrict all the blood vessels, and then as you release the ice, say you ice for 15-20 minutes, typically a good amount of time to ice for, up to 30 minutes, but usually no more, then it helps to flush everything out of there. Once your body starts to heat up again after being cold, it flushes things through, and it helps the healing process, and it helps reduce any kind of inflammation. For situations where, say you woke up and you're like, oh, my neck is really stiff, and if it just feels kind of sore, like a workout soreness, that's when you can use heat. Those are great times. If you're just stiff, maybe you had a hard workout, or maybe you had an initial back spasm, and then 3 or 4 days later, it just kind of feels generally stiff, but you can move okay. You're like, oh yeah, I feel a little stiff this way or a little stiff that way. Those are times when heat will actually help loosen things up. But typically within those first few days, and depending on how severe your injury is, it may be more than the first few days, those are times when you want to use ice. So another example would be, say you got that back spasm, and every time you turn to look in one direction, you're like, ooh, and it's kind of sharp. When you get that sharp feeling, that's when you want to use ice. Always use ice in those situations. If that feeling lasts more than a couple days, keep using ice. Don't switch to heat until it's, oh, I feel stiff and sore, but it's not sharp anymore. That's when you can switch to heat. So heat's good for soreness, just general soreness, muscle soreness, or after an injury has gone through the initial phases of getting out of spasm, that's when you can use heat. You can also alternate ice and heat during those times. Just a general stiff neck, that you can use heat and ice, and sometimes typically intermixing them. Heat's great for before as you're warming up your body, you want to go into some stretches, going into some exercises and feel a little looser. Heat is good for those types of things. If it's an acute injury, something that just happened, a back spasm that's really sharp, or you turn your head and ooh, it's like I can't turn my head to the side because it's too painful, ice, ice, ice. And with the ice, you really want to make sure that you've got either a bag of ice directly on the skin if you can handle it. It won't cause any harm unless you've got, a few people I've come across that have a little bit of a reaction to ice on the skin. But for the most part, you want it directly on the skin. Typically 15 to 20 minutes, up to 30 minutes if you feel like you need it. If you're using, say, like an ice pack, one of these that you put in the freezer, be careful with these. If your freezer is really, really cold and it's in the back, The gel can actually get colder than ice does because of the chemicals in the gel. So you may want to have a barrier, something like a paper towel or a very thin fabric in between. Sometimes I'll use like a t-shirt or something. If your freezer's not that cold, it may be this one. It's maybe about the temperature of an ice cube. So this I can put directly on my skin. So just be careful with those when you're using those. So if you've got a severe back spasm, neck spasm, really sharp, hardly able to move, something that just kind of grips on you, you want to ice maybe 15, 20, up to 30 minutes. Take the ice off. Let your body warm up again, so give yourself about an hour and a half before you go and ice again. And if you're in that place where it's really hard to function because you can't move your head, you can't move your back, and it is sharp, you're going to want to ice a few times that day. If you could ice 3 or 5 times, it is going to help accelerate that healing and get that spasm out of your body, so you may be able to heal a lot faster. Remember, if you put heat on something like that, it's going to feel nice and cozy and warm at first, but it's actually going to prolong the healing process. So hopefully this helps you. So now you know when to use heat and when to use ice. If you've got any questions, if this wasn't clear enough or you've got a specific situation, feel free to contact me. Share this with people that you think would find some value in this, or just start telling people, if you see someone with an injury, ask them what's going on with that injury, what kind of sensation are they feeling. And hopefully this will help you in the future, or maybe even right now. You might be having some issues, so that we can get you feeling better faster. When in doubt, ice, not heat. Ice typically won't ever do any damage, but heat can. Heat can flare something up and create more inflammation. Like I said, it's going to feel good at first, but may actually cause more issues down the road. So anyways, hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if you got any questions. Share, comment, and stay healthy. Yeah, I hope you feel better if you're in pain right now. Sending you all that love, and hope you have a wonderful day.